Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Patrick Craig, and I'm the Public Programs Coordinator here at the National Building Museum. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the museum and this afternoon's program. Today's program is the third in the Community in the Aftermath lecture series. This series is sponsored by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Federal Emergency Management Agency in partnership with the National Building Museum. We are truly grateful for their support, and to Dana Bress, who is a research engineer with HUD, for helping us coordinate this series. Over the next 2 years, Community in the Aftermath will follow the Federal Emergency Management Agency's Alternative Housing Pilot Program, which is a grant program to provide more viable, versatile, readily available, and cost-effective post-disaster housing for the areas affected by Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. Today's speakers are focusing on the challenges of providing post-disaster housing in Mississippi. The next program, scheduled for the fall of 2009, will focus on efforts in Alabama. If you missed the first two programs, the series transcripts and audio are available on our website, which is www.nbm.org. Also, the audio, transcript, and film of today's program will be posted. Now I'd like to welcome Dana Bress, who will present an overview of the Alternative Housing Pilot Program and introduce our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. The Alternative Housing Pilot Program was funded by Congress in 2006 following the storm to basically demonstrate how states could run an emergency housing program, a temporary housing program, to satisfy the housing needs of disaster victims. Four states were awarded grants: Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Today we're going to talk about the efforts in the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, and we have three speakers. First we'll hear from the director of the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency, Mike Womack. He's the director of MEMA, and during Hurricane Katrina, he was the state coordinating officer, which is basically FEMA's direct counterpart to ensure that the state and federal disaster response was lashed up. He has served in a number of other leadership positions in the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency. We'll also hear from Dr. Larry Buron, who is an economist specializing in housing policy. He's conducting our quality of life survey, which basically looks at how the improved disaster housing under the Alternative Housing Pilot Program actually affects the residents of the communities. Because the goal of this is not to build housing. The goal is not to provide different housing for people. The goal is to make our communities, the affected communities, recover more effectively. Larry has done a number of projects on housing issues for HUD, including projects with the Hope 6 program, which is a public housing program where we move folks out of public housing into mixed income, mixed use facilities. And third, we have Anita Lee, who's a journalist with the Biloxi, Mississippi Sun-Herald, where she's worked since 1987. She was the lead reporter on the Sun-Herald's team that won the Pulitzer following Hurricane Katrina, and she spent a lot of her time focusing on the issues associated with disaster recovery, particularly the interaction between the communities and the individual property owners and the insurance industry, because that's a very, very difficult issue in the Gulf. At that, I would like to ask Mike Womack up, and we will have a question and answer session where all three of the speakers will be up here at the end, so please hold your questions till the end. Thank you.